Dear students, hope you are doing well. I know that many of you are missing your classroom for a long time because the schools have been closed down. You know that we all are going through a tough time because the world has been infected with a deadly disease, coronavirus or COVID-19. The government has taken decision to close down your schools so that we can prevent and slow down the transmission. So Amar Ghare Amar School is bringing your classroom to your home through Sangsad Bangladesh television. So without wasting any time, let's get started. So welcome to today's class. Today what we are going to learn, let's see at first. The lesson we are going to learn today is simple present tense. It's given in the Unit 5 Lesson 1 of your book prescribed by NCTV. So let's get started. Get your books, get your scripts, get your pen and paper, and without wasting any time, let's enjoy the class. As I have told you before, the topic that we are going to learn today is simple present tense. So let's see a picture at first. Now let's look at this picture. What can you see in this picture? So here we can see three different people who are from different professions. Let's look at the first one. Now, what do you think? What is her profession? What does she do? As you can see, the picture of the person that has been given here is of a nurse. So we can see that she is a nurse, or we can say that her profession is nursing. Now, what's about the second question? What does she do? Here, we can say she serves the patients. Now let's go to the second picture. Here we can see that a person is standing and he is wearing an apron. So it is very easy to understand that this person is a doctor. So we can say his profession is being a doctor, or we can say he is a doctor. And what does he do? He gives treatment to the patient. Now the last picture. The last picture might be very familiar to all of you because this is the picture of a teacher. So what does he or she do? A teacher teaches students. Now there is a common thing that we are seeing in all these questions and answers. When we are asking the questions, we are using do or does. And when we are answering it, we are using the verb form and it's being used in the present form. In some cases, we are adding s or es at the end of the verb. Now let's see another picture. Here we can see the daily routine of Bina, a student of class 8 of Fotikchuri Girls High School. Now what can you see in her timetable? As you can see, there is a question given at the top. What does Bina do at 8 o'clock in the morning? Now the answer is she starts for school at 8 o'clock. Now how can we ask the second question? We can say, what does Bina do at 6 o'clock in the morning? When we answer this question, we may say that she gets up from bed at 6 o'clock in the morning. So I think you have already understood what we are going to learn today. Yes, you're right. The topic that we are going to learn today is present indefinite tense, or it is popularly known as present simple. What are the learning outcomes of this lesson? First of all, after learning this lesson, you'll be able to understand the uses of simple present tense. You'll be able to write sentences correctly using the correct structure of simple present. And lastly, you'll be able to ask and answer questions using simple present tense. So without wasting any time, let's get started. Now, what is simple present tense? Simple events, but the events that are happening in this picture are continuous. That means these are repeated. To indicate a habitual repeated action, we use simple present tense. We use the simple present tense to express the idea that an action is repeated or usual. The action can be a habit, it can be hobby, it can be a daily event or a scheduled event or something that often happens. It can also be something a person often forgets or usually does not do. Let's see the examples. Lisa drinks tea every morning. So here we are referring to a usual event of Lisa that she does every day. My father gets up at 5 a.m. every day. That means it's my father's habit to get up at 5 a.m. On the other hand, on the last example, we can see that Jeet sleeps 8 hours every night. So I hope you have understood that when we talk about repeated action or when we talk about a habit, we usually use present simple tense. Now let's look at this picture. We can see that there is a static line given here and the event has been continuous and it is general. So to express general or universal truth or fact, we use simple present tense. In simple present, a speaker can make statement about something that was true before, is true now, and will be true in the future as well. Let's look at the examples. The sun rises in the east. So we know that it's a universal truth. The president of the USA lives in the White House. A dog has 4 legs, which is a general fact. The leaves of the trees fall in winter. So this is a situational event that happens in every winter season. So this is a general fact as well. Now this is another example of using simple present tense. To express a future event that is part of a fixed timetable, we usually use simple present tense. So we can see in the picture that the event that is going to be placed will be in the future, but it is a part of a fixed timetable. Speakers occasionally use simple present to talk about scheduled events in near future. This is most commonly done when we talk about the timetable of transportation, but it can be used with other scheduled events too. For example, if we talk about a match or if we talk about a train, what do we usually do? The match starts at 11 a.m. So we are talking about a match and the opening of the match is going to be happen in the future, but the timetable has been already been fixed. For this reason, we have used simple present tense here. Now look at the second example. When does this shop reopen? This means that this is a future event, but the shop will be opened in near future and it often opens at the same time. For that reason, we have used simple present tense in here. The simple present tense is also used to introduce a quotation or proverb. For example, Keats says, "A thing of beauty is joy forever. Honesty is the best policy. Knowledge is power. And unity is strength." All these examples are some examples of quotation or their proverbs that we usually use in our daily life. So there has been used simple present tense. Now look at this one. For permanent states, we use simple present tense. What do we mean by permanent states? Permanent states are situations or feelings which are not temporary. That means this is not going to happen for a short duration of time. Examples, I like a lot. Sophie works as a travel writer. They live in London. So when we are talking about Sophie's profession, we know that this is not a temporary state. This is something that is permanent. Now let's look at the structure of simple present tense and how it is being used. At first, the uses of to be verb in simple present tense. So we can see that at first we have talked about affirmative form. We know that when we use affirmative sentences, at first we use the subject, then we use the be verb, and at the end we use the object. Now, which be verb is going to be used with which subject? For example, if we use first person, we use am after I. On the other hand, if it is being used as plural, for example, we use are. In case of second person, you, we always use the be verb are in simple present tense. On the other hand, in case of third person singular number, for example, he, she, it, or any other singular noun, we use the form is. On the other hand, if it is third person plural number, then we use are. Now let's look at the structure of simple present tense being used in negative structure or negative form. In case of negative sentences, we are just going to use not after the be verb. For example, in case of first person, we can say I am not, we are not. In case of second person, we can say you are not. And in case of third person singular number, we can say he is not, she is not, or it is not. If you use the short form or use the contraction form, do not forget to use the apostrophe. Now moving on to the interrogative form or simple tense being used in interrogative sentences. If we use the to be verb in interrogative sentences, we are going to put the to be verb at the beginning of the sentence so that we can pose a question. For example, am I? Are you? Is he? Or is it? In case of plural, we can say are we? Are you? Or are they? So it's very simple. In case of affirmative, you have to use the subject and then the be verb. In case of negative, you're going to use not after the be verb. And in case of interrogative, you're going to use the be verb at the beginning. Now moving on to regular verbs being used in simple present tense. Here, at first, we are going to look at the positive form or affirmative structures. In case of positive sentences or affirmative sentences, if we have first person, second person, or third person plural number, then we are going to use the present form of the verb. But if you have third person singular number, then we are going to add s or es at the end of the present form of the verb in simple present tense. Now, this is where many students make mistake. Some of you sometimes do not use s or es at the end of the verb in simple present tense. But if you write in this way, the sentence will be incorrect. Let's look at the example. I like it. Here, the subject is first person. For that reason, we do not have used any s or es at the end of the verb. On the other hand, in the second example, she likes it, we have added s at the end of the verb like. Why is that so? Because the subject of the sentence here is she. It is third person singular number. Now let's look at the negative form. In case of negative sentence, we are going to use subject, then does not or do not, and at the end we are going to use the verb and then the object. Now here we are going to follow the same rule. If the subject of the sentence is third person singular number, in negative sentence we are going to use does not. On the other hand, if the subject is first person, second person, or third person plural number, then we are going to use do not. The examples have been given here to clarify the thing. For example, I do not like it. Here, the subject is first person. She does not like it. In the bracket, I have shown you the contraction form. As I have said before, do not forget to use the apostrophe if you are using the contraction or short form. Now let's look at the question form or interrogative sentence that are being used in simple present tense. In this case, if you have third person singular number as the subject of the sentence, then we are going to put does at the beginning. For example, does she like it? Here, the structure has been given as does, then third person singular number, and then the verb. As we have already used does at the beginning of the sentence, we are not going to add s or es at the end of the verb. On the other hand, if the subject is first person, second person, or third person plural, then we are going to put do at the beginning of the sentence. So this is what we have learned so far today. The simple present expresses an action in the present, taking place once, never, or several times. It is also used for actions that take place one after another and for actions that are set by a timetable or schedule. The simple present also expresses facts in the present. Now I'm going to give you a homework based on this lesson. This passage has been given in your book at page number 103. What you have to do is you have to read the passage and then answer the questions that are given below the passage. When you answer these questions, you have to focus on which verb has been used. What you have to do is you have to read this passage again from your book and then you have to answer the questions that are given below. Let's look at the questions. Now the first question is, what time does Mr. Amin start work? What you have to focus on here is the question that have been used is asked with does. So you know what you have to do. Second question is, does Mr. Amin drive a car to work? Again, does has been used to ask the question. Does Mr. Amin talk to customers? And the last question is, how does Mr. Amin feel about his job? When you answer these questions, what you have to keep in mind is the structure that I have shown you in case of affirmative, negative, and interrogative sentences. Do the homework. Submit the homework to your respective teacher when the school opens. The evaluation given by your teacher will be added in your continuous assessment.